The film opens in London. Owen Shaw lies unconscious in the hospital after the events of Fast and Furious 6. His older brother, Deckard Shaw, walks in and observes the room. He looks at Owen for a long moment, places a hand on his shoulder, and quietly promises revenge on everyone responsible for his condition. Before leaving, he takes the cross necklace from Owen's hand as a reminder of the mission he has set for himself. The scene moves to another location. Letty joins an underground street race because she hopes the noise, the smell of fuel, and the rush of speed will help her memory return. Before the race starts, the crew warns her to keep the engine under 9,000 revolutions per minute. They say the opponent's nitrous will burn out after the first 60 meters, so she only needs to stay steady. The race begins and Letty holds her line. She wins with a clean finish. The crowd cheers and raises their phones. Small fragments of her old life flash in her mind. She feels uneasy and steps away from the celebration. Brian O'Connor tries to adjust to a calm lifestyle. He takes Jack to school and practices a routine he is still not used to. That night, Dom and Letty visit Letty's grave. Dom wants to destroy the tombstone because he feels it represents a past that no longer matches reality. Letty stops him. She says the old version of her ended when she lost her memory. She needs space to understand who she is now. She tells Dom she fears she cannot give him the life he hopes for. She decides to leave for a while to clear her mind. At the Diplomatic Security Service office in Los Angeles, Elena Neves talks with Hobbs as he finishes a stack of reports. Hobbs walks into his office and finds a man hacking his computer. The intruder is Deckard Shaw. Hobbs tries to detain him. Shaw refuses to cooperate and attacks. Elena rushes in when she hears the commotion. Shaw detonates explosives that destroy the office and throw Hobbs and Elena out of the building. Shaw escapes with a classified file containing the full profile of Dom's team. Brian prepares to take Jack to school. He sees a package at their front door. Mia tells Dom she is pregnant again, but she has not told Brian because she fears he will quit missions completely. A few seconds after Brian leaves, the package from Tokyo explodes and destroys their home. The blast shakes the neighborhood. The family survives, but everything is ruined. It is revealed that Deckard Shaw killed Han in Tokyo Drift. The team visits Hobbs in the hospital. Hobbs explains that Owen Shaw has an older brother named Deckard, a former Black Ops assassin with a long list of classified missions. He says the government once sent 20 elite soldiers to capture Deckard but failed. Hobbs warns Dom that Shaw will come after them without hesitation. In Monte Cristo, Dominican Republic, Mia and Jack stay with their friend Mando. She says they are secure there. She still refuses to tell Brian about her pregnancy. She wants Dom to bring Brian into the mission because the team works best together. Dom agrees and travels to Tokyo to collect Han's belongings. In Tokyo, Dom meets Sean Boswell. Sean gives Dom the items found at the crash site. Among them is the cross necklace connected to Dom and Letty's past. The moment feels heavy for both men as Sean hands it over. The team returns to Los Angeles for Han's funeral. Roman tells Brian he wants no more funerals. Brian says there will be one more before this ends. Deckard Shaw watches from a distance. Dom spots him and chases him into an underground tunnel. Both men crash their cars head-on with no hesitation. Shaw points his gun at Dom, but a covert military group arrives and forces Shaw to pull back. The unit is led by Frank Petty. He tells Dom that the London events brought the team to his attention. Petty offers Dom a deal. A private military leader named Mose Jakande has kidnapped a hacker named Megan Ramsey. Ramsey created a program called God's Eye. It uses every connected digital device to track any person with extreme accuracy. Petty cannot act openly. He needs Dom's team. If Dom rescues Ramsey and retrieves God's Eye, he will allow Dom to use it to find Deckard Shaw. Dom accepts without hesitation. Petty gathers the team and explains that Ramsey is being transported through the Caucasus Mountains in armored vehicles. The roads are narrow and dangerous. Roman panics and calls the plan reckless. He tries to act as the leader, but when everyone waits for instructions, he freezes and gives up the role. Letty joins them after Petty contacts her. Dom tells Tej to reinforce their cars for the rough terrain. Petty says they must drop the cars from a plane to intercept the convoy. Roman refuses to jump. Tej manually deploys his parachute and pushes him out of the plane. The team lands near the convoy. Kiet, played by Tony Jaa, leads the guards. He orders his men to fire armor-piercing rounds. Brian boards the bus carrying Ramsey and fights off the guards. Deckard Shaw attacks the team again. Kiet recovers and fights Brian inside the bus. The bus tilts over the edge of a cliff. Brian climbs out in time and jumps to safety with Letty pulling him in. Dom rescues Ramsey while fighting Shaw's men. Roman arrives with loud confidence and provides backup. Shaw escapes once more. The team regroups and prepares for the next phase of the mission. Dom and Ramsey are surrounded by Jakande's forces. Dom stays calm and spins the car to confuse Deckard Shaw, buying a few precious seconds. He then drives straight off the cliff without hesitation. Ramsey survives because the car was reinforced to handle extreme impact during the earlier mission briefings. After realizing this, she begins to trust Dom's team fully. She explains that she gave the God's Eye chip to a trusted friend in Abu Dhabi to keep it hidden. The team immediately heads there. When they arrive, they meet Ramsey's friend named Safar. Ramsey asks about the car she left with him because she hid the God's Eye flash drive inside it. Safar explains that he sold the car to a Jordanian prince who keeps it locked in the Etihad Towers under maximum security. The prince will host a large party the next day. The team decides to use the event as their window to infiltrate the penthouse and retrieve the God's Eye chip. Once everyone is in position, Tej explains the plan in detail. Security is intense. The only way in is to hack the system from inside the prince's private room. Letty volunteers to handle the infiltration. After entering the room quietly, Tej tells her to find the phone line and cut the orange wire. Tej then gains access to the building's entire security system. Roman creates a distraction by staging an improvised 8th birthday celebration for a girl named Jasmine, drawing all guards and guests toward the commotion. Meanwhile, Dom and Brian slip into the garage and locate the red Lycan Hypersport containing the God's Eye chip. Dom lifts the heavy car enough for Brian to crawl underneath and retrieve the flash drive. Meanwhile, Letty's presence is detected by a security officer named Kara. Kara orders her team to seal all exits and lock down the floors. Since the chip is not yet recovered, Dom and Brian decide to steal the Lycan Hypersport to escape. Deckard Shaw appears again and tries to block them. Dom and Brian launch the car from one tower to the next. The brakes fail on impact, forcing them to jump a second time into the next tower. Brian manages to secure the chip, and they dive out of the car just before it crashes to the ground far below. That night, the team meets Frank Petty at Safar's garage. Brian hands him the chip as promised. Petty allows them to use the God's Eye to locate Shaw. His men stand ready to move as soon as Dom gives the signal. After activating the device, they pinpoint Shaw hiding in an abandoned factory. At dawn, Dom, Brian, Petty and his unit arrive at Shaw's hideout. Although cornered, Shaw appears relaxed while eating, as if he expected them. Suddenly, Jakande's heavily armed forces attack the building. Shaw has secretly formed an alliance with Jakande. During the chaotic battle, Petty's most trusted operatives are killed and Petty is shot in the stomach. Dom and Brian carry him outside, but Jakande succeeds in stealing the God's Eye in the confusion. Dom and Brian attempt to take Petty to a hospital. Petty tells them to stop. His extraction team is already en route and will pick him up. Before leaving, he instructs Dom to protect Ramsey at all costs, because she is the only one capable of hacking the God's Eye again. Jakande will hunt her relentlessly. The next day, the team sets up a new plan. Tej prepares a virus to override Jakande's access to the god's eye. Ramsey must be within 3 kilometers of the device for the hack to work. The team spreads out to reduce the risk of being taken out at once. Dom prepares to face Shaw alone, knowing Shaw will come after him. Brian calls Mia and tells her that he may disappear for 24 hours. Mia finally reveals she is pregnant with their second child. She tells Brian he must come home. Brian is overjoyed but knows he must finish this mission first. Dom customizes his car for the upcoming fight. Brian arms himself and checks the Subaru. Shaw prepares his weapons in a separate location. Jakande orders his men to activate the god's eye. Once they locate Dom, Jakande notifies Shaw. Shaw heads toward Dom's position. Jakande sends a drone to pursue Ramsey, who is riding with Brian in the blue Subaru. When Ramsey begins hacking the god's eye, Jakande deploys the drone to stop her immediately. Brian transfers Ramsey to Roman's car to keep her moving. They narrowly escape as the drone targets them. Since the god's eye is still being hacked, Jakande destroys the building Ramsey used as a signal relay. The process stops instantly. Ramsey tells Brian to reach the next building so she can reconnect. Hobbs, watching the situation on the news, decides he cannot stay sidelined any longer and joins the fight. Shaw catches Dom in a parking structure. They crash into each other again with full force. Both have weapons, but Dom insists on fighting hand-to-hand, determined to settle it personally. Jakande orders Kiet to intercept Brian before he reaches the relay. Ramsey moves to Tej's car. Jakande fires more missiles. The team escapes just seconds before their vehicle explodes. Letty becomes the only one close enough to shield Ramsey through the final stretch. Brian reaches the relay building but is confronted by Kiet and his squad. Brian defeats Kiet after a brutal fight. The drone locks onto Brian's car, but Hobbs arrives at full speed. He launches himself off a bridge with an ambulance and crushes the drone on impact. Brian reactivates the relay. Ramsey regains control of the god's eye. Dom and Shaw continue their brutal fight. Jakande ignores Shaw entirely and fires missiles at Dom, causing the parking structure to collapse. Shaw falls with the debris. Jakande prepares to kill Dom. Hobbs opens fire with a minigun at Jakande's helicopter to give the team a chance. Seeing Letty cornered by Jakande's forces, Dom loads explosives into his car, drives straight toward Jakande's helicopter and jumps out at the last moment. The helicopter dodges the vehicle, but the explosives attach to the frame. Hobbs shoots the explosives and the helicopter explodes midair. The team gathers around the unconscious Dom. They try everything to revive him. Letty tells him she remembers everything, including their secret wedding and their vows. Dom finally wakes up, relieved that Letty has regained her memory. Sometime later, Shaw is placed in a secret CIA prison with 12 meters of concrete designed to prevent any possible escape. The facility is isolated, with constant surveillance. At the beach, Brian and Mia play with their children while Dom and Letty watch from a distance. Dom accepts that Brian deserves to retire and live peacefully with his family. Dom drives away quietly, but Brian catches up to him for a final moment together. The film ends with the emotional farewell between Dominic Toretto and Brian O'Connor. Fast and Furious 7 shows that loyal friends can carry you through the hardest moments. You see how each member of the team protects one another even when danger grows. The story reminds you that family is not only about blood. It is about people who stand with you when life becomes painful. Brian's final moments with Dom show that letting someone go can be an act of love. The film teaches you to value the people around you. Hold them close. Support them. And when the time comes, allow them to find their own path without forgetting the bond you share.